Hey Roanoke, thank you for joining me for another episode of If You Know, You Know, a municipal podcast brought to you by the City of Roanoke. I'm your host, Carol Corbin, and we're here to bring you all things Roanoke. Now, today is the 40th anniversary of the infamous flood of '85, and we're diving into what the city is doing today to lessen the severity of flooding and its impact on our community. Our guests today are Cyndi Sledd from our Stormwater division, along with Gwyneth Martin and McKenzie Brocker. I had to think about my names there for a minute. So let's head behind the scenes and learn more about what's happening around Roanoke. Cyndi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes. So Cyndi, you're our first new guest on the podcast here today. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
I'm Cyndi Sledd. I am the maintenance supervisor. I am over the green infrastructure crews and CCTV Vector crews.
Can you explain just a little bit what that means?
Yes, green infrastructure takes care of all of our bioretention ponds within the city. They also take care of our bench cuts along the river. And then CCTV Vector crews is what keeps our drains open and clear. We have a camera we run down the line looking for any types of defects, stoppages, and then the Vector's what comes in and cleans all that out.
It's almost like being a surgeon.
Yes.
Like you're like going in and like seeing what's happening and then removing what doesn't need to be there.
Exactly.
Perfect. So, Cyndi, this whole podcast is sort of centered around the flood of '85. And before we get into what we're doing today, do you have any memories or experiences during the flood of '85?
Yes, I was in high school when the flood of '85 hit, and I was stuck at high school. It happened to be a friend of mine came by looking for his little brother, and that's how I ended up getting home, but he lost everything. His home, his motorcycles. I remember the ride home from school with him and just seeing the devastation all around. It was unreal. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen.
So you were at school and like, I guess the buses weren't running. Like they were like, either your parents can come and get you or like you're stuck here. Like what was that all about?
I actually missed the bus. I did not know. I went to a vocational school as well. So when the vocational school dropped us off, no one told us that we were getting out early because of the flooding. And I missed the bus. So
you were like, I live here now. Like, I guess
yes.
Now I'm here. Oh, well, I'm glad, one, that you were safe and okay. I'm very sorry for your friend. But do you think that sort of your experiences during the flood of '85 sort of help inform the work that you do today with the city?
Absolutely. Because the things that I seen on that day definitely contributes to what we're doing now for the citizens in the valley as a whole. It's to keep everything free and clear to where we can move through, driving, protecting us in our homes as well. We try to do as much as we possibly can to deter that.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to come back to you here in a second, particularly with the green infrastructure. But Gwen, McKenzie, would you guys sort of talk us through some of our street sweeping efforts and how the street sweeping, helps reduce the risk of flooding?
Sure, yeah. So we have our street sweepers are going around every day on our roads and our main corridors at night, and they pick up a lot of the fine sediments and, not the big things like the leaves and stuff. That's why we want to keep those out of the street. But that's, it's mainly a water quality thing. We want to keep those out, but those also can build up in our storm drains and fill those up. So Cyndi's crew will know sometimes when they have to go and clean out these storm drains, they're not just getting trash, but these big piles of sediment that can build up in there. And that reduces our capacity for drainage. And the storm drains, the way it's designed, it fills it up part way so it can't drain out that water. Which is even more important in some areas that have smaller drains, older sections of the city, downtown, where we have a lot of spring flow and things like that, and that sediment can build up really quickly. So keeping that sediment out of our system is also important for water quality and, to keep our system at capacity for the drainage.
Well, and Gwen, McKenzie just mentioned, the street sweeping is getting the sediment, but it's not picking up big things like leaves. What are some of the things that our residents can do? It is fall, the leaves are starting to drop. What are some things that we can do to take care of the leaves on our own property so that they don't get into the stormwater system?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And, like McKenzie said, street sweeping is kind of our first line of defense for getting those fines and small sediment and out of the street. And, they pair up with dump trucks and different things to get like massive, branches and things like that out of the street. But when it comes to you and your own yard and, leaves that are falling in your own yard, there are, quite a few different things you can do. You can mulch mow, which is just literally mowing over the fallen leaves and allowing the small bits to just kind of stay and fertilize your lawn naturally. You can just leave them there. I mean, if you don't care, or if you have dogs or pets who might enjoy actually like sniffing some of the, smells that are associated with some of that thing, some of those things, that's fine. There's people, my neighbor leaves the leaves on her yard, and because she's got a garden, and so it actually helps with keeping some of the natural bugs and things like that around, who will end up pollinating in the spring and things like that. So, you can bag them up and put them by the road, and the city has leaf collection later in the fall, November and December. Or if you have a backyard, you push them off into a garden bed, you can compost them. There's a million things you can do besides just tossing them in the landfill. So we just want to make sure that we are doing something with them that keeps them out of the landfill and kind of contributes back to that natural process.
Well, and also keeps them out of our storm drains and our waterways. And
Absolutely. We definitely don't want to stuff them down the storm drain. That is, I think, the main thing. And Cyndi can probably talk a little bit about what she sees year to year with some particularly packed storm drains full of leaves.
Yes. Cyndi, so what have you seen when you're taking the CCTV down there? What are your crews seeing?
We can pull up and we open the manhole, and we have seen where people are blowing or raking their leaves down into the structure. It ends up becoming compacted, and we have to vacuum and clean it out, because then the water cannot drain. And you're going to flood yourself. If you're in a low-lying area where those storm drains are taking that water off of the street, you compact them in there, it's going to flood your property possibly if you don't keep it cleaned out.
Yeah.
PSA, don't do that, guys. That's not what we're here to do. Yeah, I do see that sometimes. And, in my neighborhood specifically, there's some folks who will blow their leaves to the street for a service to come by and suck them up, which is great. But sometimes they'll sit there for 10 days before the service comes and gets them. And I'm like, well, by the time they come, it's the wind has blown them everywhere.
Right.
So yeah, what other kinds of interesting things have you seen going down into the storm drains with the Vector truck?
Let's see. Well, there can be we've seen all kinds of animals.
Yeah.
We've had cats, raccoons, not when we're jetting, of course. We're just running the camera through. There's been snakes. Yeah, it's all kinds of interesting things down there.
Basically anything.
It is.
Anything that's in the street that gets washed down to the storm drains can get really compacted.
Yes. Trash. That's another thing. A lot of places people will like to throw their trash down into the storm drain, and that's a big no-no.
And where do those storm drains put out? So they're obviously moving water away from certain areas, but where does the water eventually come out? Does it come out into the river?
Yes, it'll come out into the tributaries and into the river.
So essentially whatever's in there, if it's not jam-packed, it's just going to move out into the river and our tributaries, and we don't want that either. Gotcha.
That's why we only say only rain down the drain, because that's the only thing that really should be going into the river and the streams, and everything else is, just like Cyndi was saying, it's anything that's on the street, tons of things can get compacted in there, and it's not a trash can, it's a storm drain. So
absolutely. Well, and I'm even thinking more along the lines of some natural occurrences too. Sometimes when we've got a lot of rain, I know that the Wiley Drive Bridge, we have to close it down because just so many, sticks and leaves and limbs are just, collected there.
Yeah.
So it's nature's going to have its own course anyway. We don't need to add anything to it.
Yep.
And I guess, do your crews help when we have those sort of buildup of sticks and things after flooding?
Yes, we do. We're always looking, even before storms, to try to keep everything free and clear. so that it's going to drain properly. But then after the fact, we also go out. The green infrastructure crew is always going out, and we have several locations that have grates, storm grates, actual big structures, and they pile up fairly quick. So they always clean those out, make sure they're free flowing. Same thing with the Vector trucks. We go out. Sometimes we do have, citizens that will contact us to say, hey, I think this drain is stopped up. Our guys go out. They take a look at it to see how severe it is, and then work from there on getting it cleaned out.
And if someone from our community doesn't reach out and say, hey, I think there might be an issue here, do you have like a regular maintenance schedule where you're just sort of checking drains every so often?
Yes, we actually go by grid work. We have the city set up on a grid, and there's like 227 grids, I think is what I counted. It was something like that. So it's gridded off, and we go by those grids. So we'll be in that particular area doing everything. Okay. We're going to CCTV. We're going to Vector it out. We're doing inspections on every aspect of the structure that we have in that area.
And how many crews do you have?
2.
2 crews, 227-ish grids. Okay. The math is mathing. Perfect. Well, one of the last things that I want to talk about that we have been doing and that we're still doing is bench cuts. Because I'm not sure that many members of our community know what a bench cut is and how it's helping. So can you kind of explain to us what a bench cut is?
Yes, it's where we have went in along the river, the Roanoke River itself, and we have actually cut into the hillside to make room for more water when we have heavy water events. So what happens is the water will actually go onto these bench cuts. We sometimes you'll also see a riparian buffer is what we call it, which is where next to the river you're going to see a little higher grass because we don't know all the way to the edge. It's a water quality thing as well, but it prevents erosion. It prevents the flooding. So when you're walking along the greenway, you'll see these big, massive areas that are actually cut out that go down to the river. That's what they're designed to do. It's designed to hold more water rather than it coming up into our streets, up into property.
And where along the river can you say that we would see these bench cuts right now? Like, where are some areas if somebody was walking along the greenway or, driving with the river, to the side, like where would we see them?
So our bench cuts start at Aerial Way Drive.
Okay.
Right at the Salem-Roanoke City line along the greenway. They go all the way down through at Black Dog Salvage, along Wasena. Let's see, Vic Thomas Park that's up right there at Black Dog Salvage, and then Wasena. Then it goes all the way to the sewer treatment plant on Bennington.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
So practically the whole length of the Roanoke River within city limits.
Within the city.
Yes.
We have done bench cuts.
Yep.
Do you know how many bench cuts there are?
I believe there's 37 altogether.
Okay. And I guess is there room for more? Or is it one of those things now we're just maintaining the cuts that we have and what that looks like?
For right now, we are maintaining the cuts that we have. A lot along the river is private property up to a point. So it's probably something they may look at in areas if we get any more heavier rains to try to take it. Yes, they might try to look at some other areas to try to put something in like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really cool. And when you mentioned the riparian buffer, all I can think of is my dog, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, why don't you mow, la, la, la. My dog loves the stream buffers there by the river and by the tributaries. I'm like, you look like a little dinosaur, trying to eat at the stream buffer. So that's just in my head every time I think about it. But for you, as we sort of wrap up the work that you're doing and trying to mitigate flood risks and lessen the impact of flooding, what's the number one thing that you kind of think, based on the work that you do, that's helping to reduce flood risk? Is it the bench cuts? Is it the drains and the vectoring? What is the number one thing that's sort of helping?
I think everything that my crews are doing right now is what is helping.
Okay.
I've seen.
It's all of it.
Yes, it's all of it. Because for CCTV Vector, we have been doing what we're calling blitzes, to where we're trying to take a flood prone area and actually clean out all those drains. And downtown, the heavy rains that we had, there wasn't a lot of flooding because we're trying to hyper-focused on downtown to get all those drains clean and clear and know where they're at. And then with the bench cuts and the bioretention bonds, keeping those maintained in order to take that water and disperse it when it's time for it to, holds it for 24 to 48 hours and then it's out. So those two crews, they all work together as a team to make that free flowing to keep that flooding down.
Well, Cyndi, personally for me, thank you for everything that you and your team are doing to help throughout the city. And I hope that you've really helped shine a light to a lot of our listeners about what the city's doing when it comes to a lot of these larger, rainy events and floods. We really appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you. We absolutely love it. Everyone that's on my team, we love what we do. We genuinely do.
I love that. And you get to be outside. You get to be impacting your city every day. Yes. It's great. Well, stay tuned. We will be right back with another set of guests, and you're not going to want to miss this. Welcome back to part 2 of our present day Flood of 85 remembrance. We've already gone through what our crews are doing in stormwater to help mitigate the risks of flooding. But where there's water, there can be a flood. And you're going to want these guys on your side if that happens. Trevor, Shannon, welcome back to If You Know, You Know. And you have brought a friend whose name I don't know.
My name's William Benson.
Hi, Lieutenant Benson. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners? Let us know how long you've been here.
I've been with Roanoke Fire EMS since January of 2015. Right now, I'm currently assigned to Station 6 on C shift, which houses our technical rescue and swift water within the city.
Where's Station 6?
Jameson Avenue in Southeast Roanoke.
Oh, so you're right there by the river. That's a perfect place for swift water. So before we jump right into swiftwater rescue, Trevor, would you mind talking to us a little bit about emergency management and what your role as our emergency manager for the city entails?
Sure. So emergency management, we cover the 5 phases of emergency management, and that is planning and preparation and response and recovery and mitigation and all these different things that we do. But what that ultimately means is we spend a lot of time in meetings in order to be prepared for any type of incident that may occur in the city of Roanoke. So it's not just flooding, it's all the other things that go along with flooding. It could be wind, it could be power outages, it could be active attacks, it could be anything that we spend our time with community partners and city leaders talking about how the city can be prepared and be more resilient for any type of incident that may occur.
Do you feel like you live in the world of worst case scenario? Are you always looking for like the next worst thing that could happen?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's really the role of the emergency management coordinator. I mean, ultimately is to think about what could happen and how we can prepare for it. So constantly thinking of what if this happened, what do we do? And do we have the right equipment? Do we have the right people and all these different things?
Okay. Well, that's sad. I'm sorry. But we're so glad you work with us. So can you talk us through a little bit about what technical rescue is and what our Swiftwater team, like, not what they do, but like, what is the Swiftwater team? How many people are on it? What are they doing?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about it, and then I'll let Lieutenant Benson talk too.
Awesome.
So the city of Roanoke, we're fortunate to have, and I say this a lot, we're spoiled. We have a Swiftwater rescue team. We have a hazardous materials team. We have technical rescue team, and each of these teams are actually a part of a larger regional team. The regional team is made up of the city of Salem, Roanoke County, and city of Roanoke members, and we all come together and train quarterly so that we are prepared. So each of those localities has their own equipment, their own apparatus, and different things that they respond during these disasters. That being said, we're also part of a larger organization, which is the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, and so we're a deployable resource that can go throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia and even across state lines under the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, which is through the federal government. So our team has been to Texas, we've been to Florida, Louisiana, and then oftentimes we end up kind of in Richmond or along the coast of Virginia to kind of help our neighboring communities. So if a disaster is not going to impact us locally, then we'll usually deploy and help other localities.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So like I said, it's a bigger regional program. We have a lot of good team members for the city of Roanoke. We keep about 36 members on our Swiftwater team.
Okay.
About 48 on our technical rescue team and about 36 on our hazardous materials team. So a lot of training goes into that, a lot of training hours, and really just kind of maintaining all of our equipment. It's a lot.
And so, Lieutenant, how long have you been a part of Swiftwater?
I've been a part of Swiftwater now for the last 5 years, I believe.
Okay, and how many times have you been deployed locally versus, and estimate, I'm sure you don't have this number off the top of your head, versus like how many times have you had to go outside of Roanoke?
I've been outside of Roanoke, I think, twice.
Okay.
But I've done a lot of stuff locally. A lot of our members, they've got a lot of tenure on our team. So they've been to Texas, they've been across state lines. It's something that a lot of the folks regularly do. Mm-hmm. But locally, quite frequently, but outside of the area, just a couple times.
And what got you interested in Swiftwater? Did somebody come and say, you are now Swiftwater? Or were you like, no, I'm going to go for this?
No. I started taking technical rescue classes and really enjoyed the technical rescue side of everything, and had the opportunity to take surface water, then Swiftwater, and fell in love with it. So I wanted to stay with it, get on the team, stay with the team, and continuing education with it.
What's sort of the difference between a technical rescue and like Swiftwater? Like what are the
water element?
Just the water
added into it. I mean, you've got a small element of technical rescue tied into Swiftwater, just ropes. But with Swiftwater team, it's folks with PFDs. It's water related.
And I'll talk to that too a little bit if that's okay.
Yeah.
So the way the state is looking at water responses now is there really is a larger component to technical rescue, and that is the wide area search piece, and that is the structural collapse piece, and understanding that when our teams go downrange to go on a deployment or even locally, you really need a combination of folks that are trained in both technical rescue and water rescue, because every time you go to a deployment, we'll use Southwest Virginia, for example, those guys weren't just in floodwaters the entire time they were there, right? So the water recedes, and now you have this wide area search, and you're going into homes that are damaged really significantly and may have some collapse potential. So the state is looking at it differently. So how do we deploy these teams that are both Swiftwater and technical rescue? Which the nice thing about the Roanoke Valley is most of our members, just like he's saying, he's cross-trained, right? So he has both of these trainings. Yeah. So a lot of times when we go on a deployment, I can send hazmat technicians with technical rescue and Swiftwater rescue and know that I have all of those components covered, where some jurisdictions are really solely focused on one thing, right? So we may need to combine teams in those cases. And so it's really nice in the region to know that we're sending a fully trained complement of people that can handle kind of all the different.
Well, and when you're talking about deployment and sending folks places, whether it's, throughout the region or the state or, further, how do you make that determination of like who's going to go versus like having folks here in case something happens here? Like talk to me behind the planning process for that.
Yeah. So I that's a complicated process, honestly.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's something, number one, we know we're going to support a regional response. A lot of times, so this weekend, for example, good example of, we have hurricanes coming up the coast. Everyone's kind of preparing. Myrtle Beach and South Carolina may get impacted and may need teams. And so they start sending out requests, hey, who's available? And so for the city of Roanoke, and we talk regionally with the Roanoke County and Salem leadership, and we say, hey, are you guys going to go statewide? And then they'll say yes or no. If we feel like the impacts are coming towards us, we may say, hey, we're only available regionally. And that way the state knows, okay, Roanoke City and Roanoke County and Salem are staying right where they're at in case this impacts them. So for Helene, good example there, we kind of stayed more regional because at that point we kind of saw the impacts coming towards us. But if we're going statewide, we still want to make sure that we have contingent here, because we still have to maintain that, hey, this storm could change tracks. We could just get a rain event that floods Roanoke like we did a couple weeks ago. So fortunately, we have enough equipment to do that in the region, and we talk and we say, hey, what are you bringing and what are you bringing? And that way we know, okay, we still have X number of boats available in the city of Roanoke and Roanoke County and Salem. So if anything does happen, we can still manage locally. So we're fortunate to have the equipment and the coordination amongst those jurisdictions to know that, okay, we can still send 12 to 20 people. On a deployment, we'll send anywhere from 24 to 30 people, and then we'll still maintain the staffing back here and still be able to respond.
Perfect. How many boats do we have here?
So the city of Roanoke, we have 6 total, be 3 powered and 3 paddle rafts.
Yes, sir.
And then the other localities kind of have their own complement of boats. I mean, probably 4 to 6 per locality.
Okay.
So depending on the jurisdiction and the teams and the funding and things, that's one of the issues is funding. So smaller localities may only have 1 or 2 boats, and so they may not be able to deploy as easily as we can. But that's the nice thing in having our folks cross-trained and being able to get boats out the door, but also still maintain what we have here.
And so I know that the Swiftwater teams, maybe not have to deploy all the time, but you do have some different training exercises. Can you walk us through like what a training exercise looks like?
Well, I don't plan the training exercises.
No, but you've probably done them.
I've done something as simple as they're doing construction down the Roanoke River. It's a good time for us and non-flood events to go through and look where stuff is in the river. And that's an opportunity too for us to either work on getting people out of the boat, getting them in with newer members who may not have that experience, or having them have time on a paddle. That's a skill that's hard to learn. It's a practice skill. So we've done that as training exercises when they release the dam, and you're going to have to forgive me because I can't remember where they released the dam at.
Yeah. Gaithright.
Yeah.
Gaithright Dam, I think, in Botetourt.
Oh, okay.
We went up there with folks to give them a chance to get hands-on in higher level water before they're exposed to it potentially out in the field. We try to do those trainings and exercises 3 or 4 times a year. We try to stay active. At first every year, we all take a swim test and a refresher so that we can maintain our status on the team.
And can you walk me through, I mean, obviously there are details and things that, I understand you wouldn't be able to share, but is there a particularly memorable rescue that you've had?
Other than walking out to vehicles when people don't turn around, when roads are shut down, family was trapped in Craig County in their house. Water came up, hadn't planned on it. We put up a high line and went out.
What's a high line?
Or, excuse me, what's the word I'm looking for? Attention diagonal. Attention diagonal. Yeah. We put up a tension diagonal so that essentially one person can be in a boat and guide themselves across with that boat attached to the tension diagonal.
Okay.
2 adults and a dog brought them back across the river.
Do you get animals in Swiftwater a lot?
So I will actually, I would love to cover this because it's actually a shout out and an appreciation. So we do run into a lot of occasions where people are stuck in their home and we need to just simply get them across a little bit of water. Not necessarily always quote unquote floodwaters, but rising water outside of someone's home. And what we find often is that people will say, I am not leaving my house without my dog. I am not leaving my house without my animal. Right. So recently I worked with our City of Roanoke animal wardens, and I was looking for grant opportunities, and our animal wardens contacted the RCACP, the local shelter, and they shared a post, and I've actually got a bag of pet life jackets in my truck now that I'm getting ready to give to our Swiftwater teams, and that's going to go to the city team, the county team, and the City of Salem team. So we're gonna hand those out, and each team's gonna have some pet life jackets. I think it's a really cool partnership there, and that's kind of what we do in emergency management, is we look for those opportunities and try to find ways to kind of make our teams better and more successful. So when you talk about resilience, that's what we're doing.
Or say, as a dog mom, I really appreciate that, because if you're coming to rescue me, like, you need to rescue my dog too, or we're gonna have problems. So the things that you see that people wouldn't think about, but that you have experience with, going out onto the field, and they're like, no, we can't do this unless this happens, and you're just constantly trying to rework that and make it better and better. Awesome. Well, most recently, a few weeks ago, we had some flash flooding, particularly in Peters Creek Road. Did Swiftwater deploy then?
Yes, we did. We had actually 2 boat teams up that night. So it started off with the normal response from Station 6, which is how these usually work. Unless we forecast a more significant event, then we would move an extra boat team over to Station 5, which is in that northwest quadrant there.
Okay.
In this particular evening, we knew that there were some thunderstorms coming, but we didn't really forecast any significant flooding or anything like that. That particular event was a 1 in 500 year flood event, which means it could happen less than 0.2% of the time, I think, or there's a 0.2% chance of that ever happening again. So very rare event for us in the city. However, the on-duty shift that was working, they handled it very well. We had enough technicians that were working, Swiftwater technicians that were working. We were able to put a second boat in service. And so they ran, we actually had about 12 people that ended up being pulled out by boat. And then we had several other responses to areas where it was flooded, but actually we were able to maintain kind of secure in place and allow people to just kind of move up to a higher level and wait till the water receded. So yes, our Swiftwater team stays fairly busy, and it's really these random flood events and these flash flood events that get us, kind of catch us off guard sometimes. But these guys at 6 are always prepared for it. Our equipment's always ready, and we can get out the door pretty quickly. So it's the flash flooding that concerns us. The Roanoke River flooding is usually more forecast, and you're kind of watching, and you can kind of watch water levels. The creeks, streams, and tributaries, you heard from our stormwater management folks, they do a fantastic job of gauge networks and really managing and kind of seeing what's out there. So it's a strong partnership between those 2 departments, and we work really closely with them during flood events.
Absolutely. So to sort of wrap all of this up, Lieutenant, can you let us know what's the number one thing if you're going out on a swiftwater rescue, whether it's a lot of flood water or even just a little bit, but there's a turnaround, don't drown situation? What's the number one thing that, say, you were coming to rescue me, that I can do to make your job easier? How can we help you?
For me, if you'll just stay calm, stay where you're at instead of doing a whole lot of moving around. With a vehicle in the water, depending on how that water's pushing the vehicle, just paying attention to what we're explaining when we get to you, how we need to get you to get out of your vehicle. Gotcha. And just staying calm so that we can do what we need to do. Okay.
Don't do too much. Got it. And then Chief Shannon, what's the number one thing we can do to be prepared? How can we help you by staying prepared?
For a flooding event, I think really truly is turn around, don't drown. But really, number one is have a weather radio, sign up for Star City alerts, know what weather's coming. And if you expect a significant rain event, whether it's in Roanoke City, Roanoke County, or Salem, you're going to see some sort of flash flooding. So if you can stay off the roads, that's ideal, right? We don't want you out driving around when there's known flooding or known heavy rain coming, because these things pop up quickly. Unfortunately, like you mentioned with Peters Creek Road, that was an instance where there were people trapped in the water, and it wasn't because they drove through it. It was because they were coming down Peters Creek Road and the water rose that quickly. So, you just never know. And so really, Star City alerts, number one, and then number two, stay off the roads if you don't need to be out.
I appreciate it. That's your PSA and your homework now, is to go out and sign up for Star City alerts. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate you walking us through Swiftwater Rescue, technical rescue, and everything that your teams are doing to help keep us prepared during floods. Thank you all so much for listening. This is another great episode, and stay tuned next week for our future episode as we talk you through flood resiliency in the valley and what Roanoke is doing to help mitigate even more of our flood risk.